Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now behind me is a car I've actually considered buying on at least 2 different occasions, but I've never actually driven. The Audi S3. Well, I've spent the last week driving this car. I've put 800 miles on it, and in this video I'm going to share with you my findings of a car that, well, this really surprised me. So let me explain. Long-term followers of the channel will know I'm a little bit of an Audi fanboy. I've had 2 S4 Avants and loved them both, and they sat alongside my mini JCW Roadster. But before I had the Roadster, in my life before YouTube, I actually ran an Audi TTS Roadster, and I absolutely loved that car. So a couple of things. When I was looking to change my TTS Roadster, I did consider 2 Audis. One was the S5 Cabriolet, because I wanted the soft top driving but with a little bit more practicality. Effectively, I wanted seats in the back. And the other Audi in the range that did that for me was the S3 Cabriolet. And originally I was never a big fan of the S3 Cabriolet because before it was a hatch with the roof chopped off, and I never thought it looked a very nice car. But then they did the saloon format with a soft top, and I thought that really was a very good looking car. But I didn't go for that. I ended up buying my Roadster. When I came to replace my Roadster, number 1 car on the list that I was really keen on, and in fact I even got offered a build slot, was the RS3. Now, unfortunately, at the time I wanted to buy one because of emissions. They weren't building RS3s, and the build slot was going to be quite a long way down the line. And then I got nervous because it was going to be a very expensive car. So I have been very close to getting one of these, but I've never driven one. I know you might find that amazing, but I never got close enough to pulling the trigger to actually go and have a test drive. So when the new S3 refresh came out, I got in touch with my friends at Audi UK and said, look, can I run one for a week? Because I'm just really keen to see what they're like. And here it is. And I must say, this particular model in this turbo blue colour, I just think looks absolutely stunning. I know the colour's not going to be for everybody, but the thing I find most interesting about this car is actually not this view that you're getting, it's the rear 3/4 view, because this is the Saloon S3 and not the Sportback, and I think that's what makes this car really special. I'm going to say something quite controversial here for some of you, I'm sure. I think this is one of the best looking cars Audi make in this saloon format. And I never ever considered it. I'll put it right out there. This is not a car I would buy simply because I've got 2 dogs and I need that hatchback format for the practicality of where the dogs go. But honestly, I think this car's a good looking car. The other thing I love about this A3 S3 size is it's not too big. I think one of the challenges I have as you go up the lineup, and it's not just Audi, it's BMW, it's Mercedes, the cars get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they just start to lose that everyday practicality. So earlier on in the week, I took this car somewhere where the streets are really narrow. Welcome to Mevagissey. Now, I stated in my recent S8 video that the one place I wouldn't want to bring that car was Mevagissey because it was huge. And unlike some of its larger siblings, one of the things I love about the A3 S3 format is its size. But it's so good to be back in Mevagissey. I haven't been here since July, and I'm here to do something very important. Yes, put up the Christmas tree for guests that we have arriving on Friday. But let's take it to some of the more tight, twisty bits of Mevagissey. This is where it starts to get interesting, and people who aren't used to the road start to have a bit of a baby. Luckily, or interestingly, we've actually got an A3 in front of us. A bird's eye view of just how useful it is to come here and have a slightly smaller car. This car's actually a very similar footprint to my Mini Clubman, and it's quite interesting. I think as I'm getting older, maybe my size of car, or car choice size, is getting smaller and smaller, having gone from a Discovery, Range Rover Sport, S4 and then Mini, and I just start to like that slightly smaller, more practical car, but we're actually going to turn left here and go really tight. But yeah, we're going to come down here and just illustrate this is how tight Mevagissey can be. But I also thought while we were here, I'd like to show you around, because here's the harbour. Look at that. I can even see our house as well. But what I need to do is get the other important thing for this video, a really good thumbnail, and I know just the place. So yes, I think one of the things that makes me really like the format of the S3 is just its size. You can take it anywhere. You'll find a car park space, you'll get in it, you can go down tight, twisty roads. You're not going to have a major problem, and I like that a lot. Look at this. Perfect. Nice and quiet. I spy the perfect thumbnail. Yes, the perfect thumbnail. Well, I think it's safe to say I nailed the thumbnail. Now, although it's not got the practicality of the hatch, and when I was speccing an RS3, it was very much the hatch I was looking for, this saloon format has a really big and very usable boot space. You can get a lot of stuff in there, but if, like I know many of my followers are, if you're a cyclist, you ain't going to get a bike in there. And if you've got dogs, it's just really no good, and that means you would have to go for the hatch. But if you had a young family and you wanted to get a buggy or a pushchair, I'm sure that would fit in there. There's plenty of space. But what about rear passenger legroom? I have a feeling that might be slightly compromised. Ooh, I thought that might be the case. Now then, first things to be said, I'm a really tall chap. I'm 6'3", so I rarely fit in anything smaller than a big SUV, to be fair. But I've got a reasonable amount of headroom. When you look from the outside of the profile of this car, it does slope back at the rear of the car, and that does compromise headroom. But I'm here, you know, my hair's rubbing on the headliner a little bit, and this seat is about halfway between the forward and back position, so it's not ideal for an adult. But I very rarely sit in the back of the car. Where I do sit is in the driver's seat. So the big question is, what's this car like in terms of comfort on a really long journey? So how comfortable is this car on a long journey? Well, I'm on a very long journey. As you can see, I'm actually crossing over the bridge from England to Wales. I've been in the car for 2.5 hours, and I still have just over 2 hours to go on this journey, and I am super comfy, no sign of a numb bum. These seats are really lovely, very supportive, very comfortable, and generally speaking, you can get yourself into a really nice, comfortable position in this car. There's a place to rest your elbows if you want to, and yeah, you can munch the miles, that's for sure. There's plenty of legroom as well. I could actually put my seat back a little bit if I needed to. I don't feel like I'm sat quite as low down in the car as I'd like, and the seat is as low as it can be. But on the whole, a very comfy place. I can't talk about what it would be like sat in the back, but then I'm not often sat in the back of a car, to be honest. But yes, from the driver's seat, this car, very comfy on a long journey. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. What a spectacular evening we're having. Now, I'm just about to enter Wales. The question is, I've got my passport with me. So it's safe to say it's a comfy car on a long journey, but what's underneath the bonnet? What propels this car along? Now, I guess many of the kind of RS3 fans will be fans because of the incredible inline 5-cylinder engine, and sadly this doesn't have that. That's an inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, but it's still producing 310 PS and 400 Newton meters, and this is quattro all-wheel drive, so it's certainly got the performance figures to keep most people happy. Audi quote 4.8 seconds to 60. It's sprightly. I'll talk more about the dynamic driving characteristics of the car a little bit later in the film, but for now let's jump behind the steering wheel in the driver's seat and talk about the new cabin and just generally how comfortable is this car for the driver. So welcome to the interior of the new S3. Let me fire the car into life just to bring all the displays up and running. So there are some things I absolutely love about this new interior, and there are some things I'm really not very fond of, if I'm honest. Let's start with the love first. I love that. I love the fact that it has a display that's actually integrated into the dash, and integrated really beautifully as well. There's kind of piano black either side, and it just forms itself into the dash and just looks really nice. For so long, Audi and lots of other manufacturers just pursued this horrible design language of sticking an iPad on the dash, and I never understood it. It's lovely. It's not incongruous. It just sits there, and it's part of the dash aesthetics. In front of me, I've got Audi's virtual cockpit. Say no more. It's one of the best. But I really like these two air vents either side. It just focuses that instrument binnacle to me. I've got a lovely flat bottom steering wheel. I know some of you don't like that, but all in all, the driving position is excellent. The touchscreen Audi system, I actually quite like it, having owned a car with it for some time, so I'm quite familiar with where things are. I know it will drive people mad because it collects greasy fingerprints, but there are some real buttons to do things like the air conditioning controls, and I quite like that, because often when you're driving, the things you want to quickly change are things like up the temperature or put your heated seats on, and there are real buttons to do that. Coming down, things I'm not so keen on. Number one, if you want to connect Apple CarPlay, you need to, this is called a wire, a cable. So it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay. Now, actually on a long journey, I don't mind that. On a long journey, I would rather connect with a cable, because your wireless chargers typically overheat your phone anyway. But on short journeys, it means that you have to have a cable in the car, and I just think it looks messy. It's much nicer when you jump in a car on a short journey, your phone automatically connects via Wi-Fi, and off you go. So, not a big fan of that, but let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? What is that? I'm sorry, but that gear selector is just, I don't like it. I mean, it's very, very similar to the Porsche 911 992 gear selector, and I don't like that either. Where's the nice kind of tactile gear stick? Even if it's not the standard one like used to be in the S3, even if it's like you'll find in the new 4 and 6, you know, you've got a nice kind of thing you put your hand on. I don't like it at all. And the other thing this car does, which is really annoying, is the start-stop is just that little bit too aggressive. And when it does stop, it puts a hill assist brake on. It doesn't put the full handbrake on, just the hill assist brake. And that means when you pull off, it's just a bit clunky. No jokes about pull off, by the way. Anyway, so all in all, it's really nice in here. I just don't like the gear stick. So what about the drive modes and the gearbox and the gears? What are they like? Well, earlier on in this week, I was in Wales, found a lovely piece of road to kind of talk you through the gears, the gear selector, and the drive modes. Okay, let's talk drive mode. So it's got the normal drive select that you will find in any Audi, and on all of the motorway cruising stuff I've done this week, I've just stuck it into economy, and that gives you your best fuel economy. What you'll find though is if you stay in that eco mode on a B road like this, the driving characteristics of the engine and the throttle really aren't pleasant at all. So you just come up into auto, or I just stick it straight into dynamic, and that gives you a much sharper, peppier throttle. In drive mode, it's a little bit laggy. It just has to think. There's a hesitation when you put your foot down. You can get a kick down, but there's just too much hesitation for me. So the first thing you can do is just pull the little gear selector back, and as I've said already, I really don't like that gear selector. Puts it into sport mode, and it makes it a little bit more sporty and a bit more intuitive. It almost kind of guesses what you want the car to do. But my big problem with the car, with this new gear selector, is normally in Audis, I've then got the option to push the gear selector to the left and engage the manual changing. Now, you don't do that on this car. All you do is you grab a paddle. So if I grab a paddle, I'm now in manual mode. I'll just drop it down a couple of gears. The manual changes are really, really slick. However, I do have a bit of a problem with this, because I'm now in manual mode. By definition, I should be the one doing the gear changes. If I just give you a demonstration, if I go down into second and I accelerate away, I'm not going to change the paddles. It's just changed for me. It's just gone from second to third, and I didn't touch a paddle, but I'm in manual mode. Now, for me, when you go into manual, it should hang on to the gears. Plenty of cars do, but this doesn't. And I don't know what it was about being able to push the gear stick over to the left. And what you could also do with that is you could use the gear stick to change up and down as well if you didn't want to use the paddles, which I've never ever done, but you could do that if you wanted to. So for me, the bit that's missing is with this new horrible gear selector is I can go into manual, but then it's not really manual because the car will change up anyway. It won't hang on to the gear and hit the limiter. And then all I need to do if I want to go back to auto is just hold the up paddle for a couple of seconds, and it will drop into the auto change mode. Now it's gone for me back into sport mode. So all in all, the gearbox in this car is a really nice one. I still haven't got to the dynamic driving bit. Be patient, it's coming very shortly. Let's just talk about the S3 and the price of this particular car. So the S3 starts at just under £37,000. This car has a few nice options on it. The alloy wheels on this car are 19-inch. Now they are a £770 option, and I think they look really lovely, but having washed it this morning, they are a bit fiddly to wash. Hashtag no sponge. But I have to say that this car is fitted with the Matrix LED headlamps, and honestly, if you're buying an Audi and you don't spec Matrix LED headlamps, you need your head testing, because that is the best option that Audi do. It is simply brilliant, and that's all I need to say. I know I've raved on about it on a few videos in the past. And then the only other really big expensive option this car's got is it's got the Bang & Olufsen upgraded sound system, and that's an £865 option. I haven't spent a great deal of time listening to music in the car, even though I've been in the car a long time. What have I done now? 15 hours in the car. I was just listening to the radio. But it is very good, and I think for resaleability, I've always, when I've been buying Audis, always wanted the upgraded stereo. So this car on the road is just under 41.5 grand, which I think is very good value. Now, why would you then think, well, what about the RS3? Well, the RS3 I think you're going to find is a good £10,000, depending on spec, maybe even £15,000 more expensive than that. So is it worth going down the RS3 route? Well, what we need to do to answer that question is take this car on some nice B roads, and luckily in Wales I found some. So let's go and do some dynamic driving. So what's this car like dynamically? Let's find out, shall we? So I put it onto the paddles just to give me that extra engagement with the drive. And instantly this car, it's very sprightly, 310 PS, 400 Newton meters. It's got plenty of go, 0 to 60, 4.8 seconds. It's as quick as you kind of want, really, because you can use it, you can exploit it. The engine note for me is a little bit, it just could be a little bit better, but then I'm getting used to that with modern day cars. The RS3 will be much better with that 5-cylinder, but this isn't too bad. And when you get it on a nice bit of road, a nice bit of flowing B road, it really does come to the fore. What I like about it the most, because it's got the Quattro 4-wheel drive system, yeah, its acceleration is fantastic, but I've just got so much confidence in the car because of the grip, the traction coming out the corners. These roads are particularly grotty today. It's a fairly horrible, wet Welsh day today, and there's lots of runoff from the fields and mud on the road, and it's normally in the places where you don't want it, in your braking zones and traction zones. And the nice thing about having that 4-wheel drive system is you can really progress with pace down here over this crest into this left-hander. It's got a really nice feel to it, lots of nice balance, and it just gives you mega confidence and lots of power coming out the corners. The gearbox is actually very slick up and down. This car's wicked. Honestly, I think this 300 PS, maybe up to 350 PS power is about right for a kind of B road munching car in the UK. You know, don't get me wrong, if you went up to an S4 or an S6 they're a little bit more powerful. If you go up into the RS models, they are amazing to drive, but you just end up going so quickly that really, in most circumstances, you can't exploit all the power. You always feel like you're driving the car at 60%. This, on the road, I'm maybe up to 80%. There's still a lot left. But it means that when you get this, look at this road, it's fantastic. I love Wales. Some of the B roads you get in Wales are just fantastic. The brakes are super sharp. I've got lots of trust in them. I can really hang on them. They retard the car brilliantly. Whoa! Oh no, look. I've got to slow down now because there's a speed limit. Yes. The thing I love about this car is, and it was the same when I had the TTS last year, which is very similar performance, is for an A to B road destroyer, this is for me the sweet spot. They are brilliant at that. And I've done lots of miles this week on motorways and cruising, and it's all very comfortable. But when you get it on a bit of road like that, and you can really open the taps and you go to the manual gear change on the paddles, it's a brilliant, brilliant car. Don't get me wrong, I know some people will drive it and feel that this may be a little bit numb. It lacks that driver involvement and driver engagement of a rear wheel drive car, for example. But you know me by now, I do love that four-wheel drive confidence. It reminds me very much of my Clubman, and that is a big compliment coming from me. But it's an absolutely mega car when you get it on a nice bit of twisty road, that's for sure. So one of my final impressions of the Audi S3 Saloon. Well, I must say, I've really enjoyed my week with it. I've done 800 miles in that car, would you believe? Just to leave you with some of the boring stuff like fuel economy, very much depends on how you drive and which mode you're in. But if you're in the economy mode on a long run on a dual carriageway, you're going to be able to get high 30s, 36, 37, 38. You might even, if you tried really hard, get it to start with a 4. However, if you're in dynamic mode or auto mode and you're maybe driving more realistically, I think the fuel economy, you're likely to get mid to low 30 mpg, so 33, 34, 35. That's your kind of ballpark. If you find yourself a nice piece of Welsh B Roads, stick it in dynamic mode and drive more enthusiastically, then it's going to start with a 2. I think mid-20s as soon as you start to push on. But I'm quite comfortable with that. I actually think those numbers are quite good because at the end of the day, you've got to get 310 PS from somewhere, and you get it from burning fuel. The faster and harder you drive, the worse your fuel economy is going to be. In terms of comfort, very, very comfortable car. But for me, the thing that really, really resonates with me this week, I just think it's a handsome looking car. In that spec, in turbo blue, I'm not even a kind of chrome guy. You've probably seen my channel enough dechroming my Mini. But I really like those kind of brushed aluminium trim parts on the car. I just think it makes the car stand out. It's a very, very pretty car to look at. I honestly think in terms of money and bang for buck, the S3 is a really good option even compared to the RS3. And I know lots of you go, oh, you need the RS3 because it's faster. It is, but it's like £50,000. So insurance, running costs, depreciation, all of those things for an extra, I don't know, that would probably suit 85% of most people's needs in terms of speed and performance and fun to drive. I honestly think the S models in Audi are underrated by performance car lovers because everybody wants an RS. I love an RS, but honestly, the S is normally the thinking man's option, and that definitely is. For sub 40,000 quid, that is an amazingly good value car, and I think, as I said, it's a cracking car to look at as well. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I need to say a big thank you to Audi UK for letting me have the car for a week and letting me put so many miles on it. It really does give me a really good feel for the car and allow me to bring you the most honest and complete review I can. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you have done so, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film, guys, but you take care. Drive safe.